Hello, hello. Who's here? Can you guys just type something in the chat really quick if you can hear me? Mm. You can hear? Okay. All right, there we go. So I'm having a bit of an issue with my mic. So let me know loud and clear. All right, sounds good. Hey, everybody. I think we're 2 minutes early, so we are going to give everybody just a couple minutes to continue coming in. Good morning. Hello, hello. How's everybody doing? Good, good. Okay, so I want to first of all, as people come in, trying to go D1, aren't we all? There we go. Okay, so first things first, obviously, this is going to be a live FAQ regarding the DeepGame program. So uh, just to set a couple brief ground rules here. Obviously, we only have so much time here. I'm going to aim for about 30 minutes. Maybe we can go to 45 or so if you guys continue having questions. But because we only have a little bit of time here, I want to just focus as much as we can on the deep game. So if you have any questions about what we call the surface game, then the game of athleticism and skill, then just shoot us an email at helpdesk@eliteguardtraining.com. Coach Damon is actually taking all of your questions. So if you have any questions about skill stuff, we've also got like 1,000,000 videos. So all of that will be covered there. You can shoot Damon a question and he will get back to you. Okay. So today, what I want to focus on specifically is the deep game. So I'm seeing some questions about EGT Live here. EGT Live, actually, we're not taking registration. How to be a more efficient point guard, scoring, passing, and making plays. So all of these things are what we would call the surface game. So we want to focus specifically about the deep game. Okay. And I saw this question come in a little bit earlier. The first one that I want to speak about is just regarding the actual deep game program. As you might know, if you go to getdeepgame.com, the full program is now open for registration and it's quite advanced. It's something that it's clearly a high level program. And the most common question that we're being asked is what the difference is between EGTX and deep game. And so I just want to cover that really quickly before we get into tactical stuff about deep game. And the answer is really simple. So if you were a member of, here we go. So if you were a member of EGTX 1.0, then you probably saw the difference between EGTX 1.0 and 2.0 because there was like 4 years in between. There was a lot of new testing and research and development that went into 2.0. And so basically the same differences there between deep game and EGTX 2.0. So this has been, I think, 3 years since we launched EGTX 2.0. And in that time, just I really can't even put into words how much more work has gone into deep game. And so it's basically, you could say, like EGTX 3.0 in some ways, but even then, my estimate is that there's probably 60 to 80% more material in deep game. And so it is just a vastly updated system. EGTX 2.0 is still an awesome program. You'll still get just as good results with that as you always have. But deep game, again, is more advanced and there's just more in there. And so that's the program. If you're choosing between the two, I would go with deep game. So that covers that right out of the gate. I'm seeing, can I trade EGTX 2.0 for deep game? We don't do that. So no. First law. Okay. We got a lot coming in. Okay. So how can I score more points? How do you get a killer mentality? How many minutes are we going to do in starting the first law? Um, okay, so we're gonna start taking questions. How to get into alter ego in your game. So let's do that one first. The alter ego technique obviously is a part of the law of identity, and that's covered in week 5 of Deep Game. So the alter ego, just as a quick debrief, is basically like how Kobe created the Black Mamba and MJ created Black Jesus and LeBron created King James. Your alter ego is sort of like who or what you become during games. And so we actually take you through this process of creating a whole separate identity and personality that you turn into when you play. And the short answer to how do you get into the alter ego during games is you train it. So what we say in Deep Game is that what you practice is what you will become. And so as you are beginning to train your alter ego, and after you develop it for yourself, what you practice is what you will become. And so every time you practice, you want to practice triggering and turning on that alter ego. And it really helps if you can have a trigger for yourself. And so one trigger that I used growing up, my alter ego that I came up with without really even knowing what the technique was, I used to say to myself, sniper, sniper, when I played. And so that was my trigger. Every time I said the word sniper in my mind, I would kind of feel that alter ego coming on in my game. And so you want to come up with a trigger like that. Michael Jordan used to wear his North Carolina shorts under his Chicago Bulls shorts every game. LeBron has his chalk toss, and so if you come up with that kind of trigger for yourself, then it's going to become more easy and effortless for you to turn into that alter ego. So hopefully that helps. Okay, stare for 10 minutes. How can I prepare myself mentally before the game? So do you guys want to do pregame stuff? Does that sound good? How many minutes are we going to stare at the ball? Okay, so let's do pregame and let's do the full focus drill, because I'm seeing a few questions coming in about that. First of all, full focus. If you watch the Deep Game Masterclass, which there is a replay of that, by the way, up on deepgame.com. So we are taking that down this coming Thursday when the Deep Game program closes. So make sure that you watch that first of all. But during that masterclass, we talked about the full focus drill, and the full focus drill is a way to train you to sink into full focus during games. And the way that we do that is, or one way that we do that anyway, is you can sit comfortably like you might be right now, or like I am right now, put a basketball in front of you and focus all of your attention onto that ball. And what you're going to notice is that as you're focusing on it, your mind is going to wander. It's going to start thinking various thoughts like, what should I have for lunch? Or when is that homework assignment due? Or when is that girl going to text me back? Or whatever it might be. And so as those thoughts come up, just notice and then bring your attention back to the ball. And that act of bringing your attention back to the ball, we say it's like a bicep curl for your brain. It makes you a little bit stronger at focusing your mind and holding your mind in focus each time you do it. And the number of minutes, I'm seeing a lot of questions about how many minutes should I do that for. So minimum is 10 minutes a day. Okay. Minimum 10 minutes a day. It's much better if you can do more. So it's kind of like the more the better. One of our professional players right now does 45 minutes a day. And so you can take this as long as you want. There's various ways of doing it that we introduce later on in the Deep Game program. But with just starting out with the full focus drill, at least 10 minutes a day, because it takes that long to actually sink into a state of presence. And so again, like I said, the longer you can do that for, the better. So that is full focus drill. Is this going to be on the channel afterward? Yes, it will. Can you explain the law of mastery? I'm seeing that a couple times. Are there any books you would recommend for developing mental strength? Unfortunately, I know there's a bunch of books behind me here. These have been, for the most part, an exercise in futility. It's, I don't know, growing up playing, I was always looking for this kind of material and I never found it. And to this day, I still haven't. So what you're seeing with the Deep Game program is kind of a synthesis of like 20 years of research and practice and development in training the mind for basketball. And so I don't know if there's many books specifically I would recommend for development of the mind, but right now I'm reading 11 Rings by Phil Jackson. There's a few things in there. Sacred Hoops by Phil Jackson is pretty good. Um, but yeah, it's a tricky one. Honestly, if you go through the Deep Game Masterclass and simply practice those laws, they're going to take you a lot further than most books will. I think uh, I think I'm glossing over something that I just promised. So let's talk really quickly about pregame, right? So I'm seeing that one. Yeah, okay. So let's talk quickly about pregame, and I'm seeing so many comments come up. So I apologize if we can't get to yours. Just shoot us an email. There's so much going on right now that we will make sure that you get an answer to your question. So as far as pregame goes, um, it's actually different for every player, and it's actually different from game to game. And so what you want to develop is the ability to simply listen to yourself, listen to your own mental and physical state and what you need. There's some games that you are going to need to get a little bit more physically amped up. You're going to be able to, you're going to need to get a little bit more mentally amped up when you're coming into the game in a low point. And if you're too amped up and you're too nervous, then you might want to do something like the full focus drill for 10 minutes. That's going to bring your mind into focus and relax you a little bit more. And so you have to modulate and see, like, what exactly do you need in the moment? Maybe you're really tired and you got to go lie down and take a nap for 15 minutes. It depends. And some of the best games that I ever played were actually in the middle of tournaments. And the thing about the middle of a tournament is that in the middle of a tournament, you don't really have a whole lot of time to think about, like, how to prepare. You're coming off of the game, or a game that morning, maybe you're all sore, and then your team goes out for lunch, and then you're right back to the gym for another game in a couple hours. And there's not a whole lot of time to do this complicated preparation. And I found for myself is that some of my best games were played in that state where I wasn't thinking so much about mentally preparing and mentally managing myself. I wasn't really thinking too much at all because there just wasn't time for it. I just went into the next game and I played so much better from that state or that space because I just honestly I didn't overthink things. And so you want to play with that. It depends on the player, and we don't really have time to go over them right now, but in Deep Game, we do have like some guided audio programs that our players have reported really, really good results if just by listening to those before games. So if you have access to any of those, be sure to try those out, and they may work really well for you. How many percent will improve if you master the Deep Game? That's something. So we are getting this question quite often, not in these exact words, but does Deep Game directly improve your skill and surface game? So how much better do you really get by mastering the Deep Game? And there isn't a there isn't a percentage, right? You can't really quantify that. What I will say is that we've also heard players say stuff like, the game is 80% mental and 20% physical. I would more accurately say that the game is 100% mental and 100% physical. You have to be able to do both, and you have to be able to do both at the highest level. If you're not playing the Deep Game well, then it's sort of like running these new 2020 apps on an old operating system from like 1990, when their flip phones were out, trying to run like an updated app on a 1990 flip phone. I don't even know if they had flip phones back in 1990, but you get the point. Trying to run an app in this analogy, which would be like a scoring move or your jump shot or whatever complex of skills that you're trying to do during a game, trying to run that software on some old outdated operating system is not really going to work. And so a lot of players have these old outdated operating systems, meaning their Deep Game is just not updated, and so they can't use the skills that they actually have inside of them. And you might notice that you don't seem to play as well from game to game, or you might not even be able to play as well in real games as you do in practices, in pickup games, in workouts, and you're not really using the skills that are inside of you. That's a very clear indication that you should be focusing on the deep game as well as continuing to bring up the surface game. So yeah, of course, do both. Um, eh, Honestly, at the highest level, it's not really optional. You have to do both if you want to make it. So that's my answer to you. It's like do both. The deep game is going to amplify your skills, and your skills are going to amplify the deep game. Um, do you have a drill for the law of magnetism? What would you guys like me to cover first? I'm seeing repeatedly the drill for the law of magnetism, full focus drill. We actually just went over that. So this video will be posted on our channel. You can go back through it if you need to. So we did how to make the game come to you and not focus on it. So we're getting a lot about the law of magnetism. As you probably know, the law of magnetism, um, the law of magnetism states that the game comes to the player who does not try to pull the game towards himself. And that means basically trying to force situations and make, trying to mold the game to your own agenda. So if you really, really, really want to score 20 points, you're going to end up having kind of tunnel vision while you're on the floor and not seeing the entire scope of the floor and the other opportunities that may be right in front of you because you're too fixated on that one result of scoring 20 points. And so the solution is to simply let the game come to you. And the first step that we shared in the masterclass is simply to stop counting your points, right? Stop fixating on scoring a certain number of points or trying to have a certain number of points per quarter. All of these things that you actually hear professional players doing, they really aren't going to help you. And so the next step with the law of magnetism, this is kind of a ninja move. Okay. So it sounds a little bit backwards and it's counterintuitive, but it's so powerful. If you're struggling to just let the game come to you, one of the best ways to actually start doing it is to get out of your own head is to focus on one of your teammates. So if you focus on getting one of your teammates going, it's sort of like the energy of the game happens like a boomerang. Whatever you're putting out is going to come back to you. And so if you start to focus on getting one of your teammates involved or getting one of your teammates fired up or getting your team fired up as a whole, you're automatically going to be there's a lot of questions coming in. Sorry about this, guys. I know I'm not going to be able to get to all of them. Let's focus on this one for now. Focusing on your teammates, when your attention is going outwards, that is what's bringing the game towards you. Okay. So if you focus outwardly on your team and what's going on the floor, it's going to bring that boomerang back to you. And if you're focusing inwards on yourself, that's what's going to start repelling the game. Okay. So my next step with that is just when you get into those states during a game where you're kind of forcing situations and you're not really letting the game come to you, just focus on one of your teammates or focus on your team or focus outwardly rather than trying to figure it out inwardly in your mind, because it never ever works. How do you play good defense without fouling? That again, guys, that this is surface game stuff. So just shoot us an email at our help desk and we will get back to you there. Coach Damon is actually manning our help desk. Do these laws work for other sports? Yes, they actually work for life as a whole. These laws apply everywhere. The deep game, really, we've developed it with basketball in mind, but this can be applied across any sport, of course. How can I memorize each law? So if you go to deepgame.com, there is a full masterclass that goes over all 8 of these laws And right below the video, there's a link to the map of the deep game. So if you download that document and follow along with the masterclass and write in all of the laws and all of the definitions, then just simply go over it. Go over it before games, keep it posted beside your bed, keep it in your gym bag, do whatever you need to do to continue installing these laws into your mind. And that's really what's going to help you to memorize these and commit them to your game. Does meditation help the deep game? Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's really a foundational exercise. Actually, the full focus drill that we explained in the masterclass and in law number one, um, the full focus drill is a form of meditation. Meditations come to mean so many different things, and there are so many different ways in which you can do meditation. There's so many different methods, and so in Deep Game, we make it basketball specific, so it's a little bit more applicable to the way that you play the deep game of basketball. But yeah, absolutely, meditation done in the right way will 100% help the deep game, and that's why all of Phil Jackson's teams did it, why Kobe Bryant did it every single morning. So definitely, definitely, definitely. Um, how does the alter ego relate to? Uh, it's going too fast here, guys. Are you doing okay? I'm sorry, guys. There's a lot of like almost spam going on here, so please do not continue posting um, the same question over and over and over. It's really hard to follow, but those of you who are just posting good questions, thank you so much. If anybody knows the answer as well, because there's too many questions coming in for me to get to all of them, if anybody knows the answer and you can help each other out, that would be amazing. No spam. Thank you. How does the alter ego relate to Law 5? So thanks for the reminder. The alter ego relates to Law 5 because the law number 5 of the deep game, again, is the law of identity, right? And the law of identity states that the player you believe yourself to be is the player you will see. If you need a review on that one, just watch the masterclass at deepgame.com. But the alter ego is basically an alternate identity that you put on, right? We called it the superhero uniform for your mind. Like Clark Kent goes into the phone booth and rips his shirt off and he's got the superhero outfit right underneath. It's kind of like that. When you step onto the court, you're shedding your personal identity and turning into this new identity of the alter ego. So that's how it relates. Are results typical? Results typical, meaning I'm assuming that means how. Sorry, I'm kind of getting lost in these comments here, guys. Yeah, so our results typical with Deep Game. We mentioned a few players on the masterclass. I think there was like 8 to 10 guys that we talked about. Of course not. Their results aren't typical at all. Their results are typical if you take it as seriously as they did, because none of those players had really, I'm trying to make sure this is accurate, but none of the players in that masterclass had any genetic gifts at all. None of, I think one of them maybe is over 6 feet, maybe two of them. None of them are super athletic or anything like that. And so if you take it as seriously as they did, yeah, absolutely, the results are typical. If you don't take it as seriously as they did, then no, you don't get to have those kind of results. So if you really commit to this, you will get more out of it than, in my opinion, anything else you could do in the game of basketball. So that's my answer. You've got to take it seriously. If you do, then yeah, the sky is the limit. It really is powerful for you. Okay. What questions would you like me to cover next? Sorry, so I'm still seeing, just a quick reminder, guys, I'm still seeing quite a few questions about the Surface game. Any questions about the Surface game, just shoot us an email and we will help you out. There's also just hundreds of videos on our channel. Probably anything that you need is on our channel at this point, so check out there. I'm seeing one more question about EGTX 2.0 versus Deep Game, and we answered this earlier, but just a quick reminder. EGTX 2.0 is like, or rather, Deep Game is kind of like EGTX 3.0, I guess, if you wanted to put it simply. Deep Game is just there's 3 more years of material and 3 more years of just relentless study and practice. And yeah, so Deep Game is just a more advanced version that will take you further. EGTX 2.0 is still an awesome program. Deep Game is, simply put, it's better. It's better. Um, uh, should you have specific goals for the season, like average 20 points, or just go with the flow? So this is a really good question that I'm so glad you asked. Should you have specific goals for the season, like to average 20 points or be MVP? And some of the laws of the deep game would indicate otherwise, but there's a nuance to this. So um, when you are I'll tell a really quick story. One of the players that I grew up playing with was his goal was to become the best shooter in Canada. And with that goal, it's number one, it's not super specific. Like, how would you even know unless you got all the shooters in Canada and like line them up one by one and had, over a month, you track their shooting every single day, which is never going to happen. So number one, he's never going to know if he achieved it. But number two, it's it's a goal that he was so fixated on that he started really overthinking his shooting. And by the end of his high school career, his shooting had actually gotten worse than it was when he first came into high school. And so that goal is kind of what destroyed his shot. He was always tinkering with his mechanics. He was always tinkering with his form and trying to change the way he shot and control his results and control his outcome. And it really hurt his jump shooting. And so, um, my advice for you is that use your goals as a compass, not a destination. Okay. And the difference between a compass and a destination, a compass will point the direction that you want to go in. So, in that way, you might have a goal to average 20 points per game. And that goal is going to dictate how you train and how you design your game. And all of those are good things, but it's only a compass. It's pointing you in that direction. And you have to be willing to let go of that goal and focus on any other uh, things that might come up in the moment. So, for example, you might have a goal to average 20 points per game, and you might find out partway through the season that your coach wants you to play point guard, and suddenly you're going to be required to be a passer and a playmaker. And you might find that you're a really, really good passer and playmaker. And so that goal needs to change. So your goals don't dictate the destination that you're going to. They're just a compass to start you on the path. And we say in Deep Game, like, set your goals and then set them free. Don't be so attached to achieving each of those goals. Like, my friend was so attached to being the best shooter in Canada that he started overthinking all of his shooting and became a worse shooter. A much better approach to that would be to break those goals down into a process. So we have a document called the goal grid in Deep Game. And quite simply, we basically take your biggest goals, your master goals, whether you want to play college basketball or professional basketball, and we break them down into a specific process that you have control over. So a process for becoming the best shooter in your state, for example, might be that you simply show up at the gym at certain time each day and make X number of jump shots from each game situation that you find yourself in. So if you're a wing player, these might be like pull-up jump shots and spot ups on the wing or spot ups in the corner, whatever shots that you shoot most often during games. You would just make your process to make X number of shots in that way. That would be a much, much better goal to orient yourself around, is the process rather than the outcome that you're trying to achieve from that. So that's what I would say there. Guys, keep it. There's a lot going on in the comments here. Just keep it cool. All right. So, uh, is there an ideal age to start the deep game? This is like, believe it or not, actually, this is not like lifting weights. The earlier you start developing the deep game, the better it's going to be. It's not like, if you're at the end of your career, it's too late. Of course, you can always do this, and it's a lifelong process, just like developing your skills in your body are. But the earlier you do this, the better. And that's because we are As we go through our career and we work with different coaches and we have different expectations set upon us by teams and by society at large, even we develop these really limiting belief structures that don't help us out in the long run. And so the earlier that you start with the deep game, if you're still in your teens, like is just an incredible time to start. And we have players who started out in high school and now, like Mason, for example, is a really high level entrepreneur and is doing really, really well in the business world because he took everything from the deep game and applied it beyond basketball. And so, long story short, just the earlier that you start, the better. Um, yeah, it's just going to set you up really, really well for the rest of your career. Um, how do I not focus on points in my first game? So this is how do I not focus on points during my first game? So one of again, in the law of magnetism, one of our techniques was simply just stop focusing on how many points you score, which is easier said than done. You know, unless you're scoring a lot of points, it's kind of, if you're scoring like 6 or 8 or 10, it's kind of hard not to keep track of that. Um, so this again is easier said than done, and it's not necessarily one of those things that you absolutely can't count your points during games, or you're going to screw yourself up. It's not necessarily like that, but it's more specific to on a moment to moment basis throughout the game. So if your mind is on like, okay, how many points have I scored, how many points do I need to score, and how am I going to hit that number, if your mind is on that during plays, like while you're out there supposedly reading and reacting to what's going on the floor, then obviously your attention is going to be fractured and not on what's happening on the floor, which is what you need to be focused on. And so don't be counting your points while you're actually in the act of playing. Focus that on the game. And one really good way to do that, again, these laws all work together. So the full focus drill will help you to strengthen your mind and strengthen your focus enough to hold it on what's happening during the game. Um, Sorry, guys, we're getting a bit more spam here, which I guess is to be expected. Thank you to everybody who's helping out in the comments. It's like as I'm speaking, there's this comment roll constantly updating, so it's a lot going on. So thank you for helping out. Um, is it bad to trash talk? Trash talk. Do you guys want to talk about trash talk a little bit? Um, what would you guys like to talk about most right now? Because we only have a few more minutes here. Um, Law of transcendence, full focus drill we've gone over. Would anybody like to? I'm seeing, how can I name my alter ego? Comparing yourself to others. Okay, so I think what we're getting is trash talk here. So trash talk is an interesting one because it's we're actually, I'm thinking if you guys want, I'm thinking about actually doing like a mini course just on trash talk and dealing with that sort of mental warfare that happens between players. So one of the things about trash talk is that the most obvious one is that you've really got to be able to back it up. And so trash talk is a high stakes game. If you are talking trash and you don't back it up, it's going to be really, really hard to keep your mental frame without collapsing. And so that's the first thing. You need to know that you can back it up. If somebody's talking trash to you, the move basically is to laugh at it. Okay. It's like to laugh at it. You don't need to laugh outwardly as somebody's talking trash to you, but just understand that when, and somebody said, what is back it up? It means back it up, like what you say you're going to do. If you say you're going to beat somebody in some way, whatever, while you're talking trash, you got to actually be able to do it. And so let's see. So when somebody is talking trash to you, understand that particularly at the high school level and the junior high level and the AAU level, in most cases, this is happening through somebody's insecurity. They're trying to pump themselves up. They're trying to posture a little bit because that confidence isn't coming naturally from within themselves. And this is not the case in the NBA. There are some great trash talkers in history, but at the lower levels, the players that you go up against, in a lot of cases, this is insecurity. And so you can actually just kind of laugh it off and say, like, oh, that, like, use trash talk as almost a um, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a signal that you can see that, oh, this player is like a little bit insecure and probably doesn't have it. It can almost be an indication of a lack of mental toughness. And then if you are going to trash talk, number one, make sure you can back it up. Number two, make sure that it is congruent with you. And so there's this really funny story that Kevin Garnett used to tell about Tim Duncan, who is super, super quiet on the floor, right? He's very, he's kind of straight faced and calm and relaxed outwardly on the floor. Um, Sorry, guys, a little bit of spam here. So he's calm and outwardly relaxed on the floor. But Tim Duncan, as Kevin Garnett said, he used to like throw these little jabs. Like he would just say, got you, or like, nope, or like these little like one liner words. And that was just his way, his unique personality and the trash talk that fit him. And he wouldn't be one of those outgoing, loud trash talkers like Kevin Garnett, for example, or Gary Payton was back in the day. That wouldn't fit him. And so make sure that it fits your unique personality and take the time, if you're gonna talk trash, back it up and make sure it's congruent with you as a player. And be willing to laugh off anything that somebody says to you. So that's like the really abbreviated, quick version of a few things you can start doing. Your alter ego should fit your basketball talents. I'm seeing some alter ego questions. You guys want to talk about the alter ego and how to develop it? Uh, um, I feel okay. So let's go a little bit deeper into the alter ego and just how to make sure that it fits for you. I'm seeing a lot of yeses here. Okay, so sounds good. Let's let's talk about the alter ego. And we spoke briefly about this earlier here, but if you are developing an alter ego for yourself, like Black Mamba or King James, hopefully it's not one of those. The first rule is that it needs to fit your unique personality. We have a couple rules for it in the masterclass that's posted on deepgame.com. And just to repeat what I said earlier, we do have to take that down on Thursday. So please, please watch it now or rewatch it if you would like to. But in the meantime, the alter ego, number one, fits your unique personality. And number two, your unique skill set. So whatever you do, whatever your demeanor is, like Tim Duncan, the story that we just told, or Kevin Garnett used to tell, Tim Duncan was this, like, had this very calm demeanor. And so calling himself like King Tim or something and doing the chalk toss just wouldn't fit him, right? And for Kobe, King Kobe, it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense, maybe a little bit more than Tim Duncan, but Kobe was more of that like cold, silent assassin type player. And so the Black Mamba fits him. And so you want to find what suits you and also your skill set. I was a shooter, and so my alter ego, so to speak, was sniper. And I used to say sniper, sniper to myself. You're going to find that something fits your unique skill set and personality. And here's the trick, okay? When you get this right and you name it and you say the name of it to yourself, you are going to feel it in your body. Okay. You're going to feel it in your body. You're not going to, it's not that it's going to sound cool or it's going to be some name that you tell your friends and they're like, oh my God, that's so cool. It's not like that. You get it right when you feel it in your body. Okay. There's going to be a resonance that your body actually gets energized simply by saying it. And there aren't any rules. Okay. It's not like one is cooler than the other. It's just whatever feels right to you. Right. So sniper, to me, it just felt right. It wasn't even the fanciest name or anything like that. I wasn't even trying to create an alter ego. It was just like this word that I really resonated with. And there's going to be different ones for everybody. Okay. So that's how you would do it, and take your time with this. Okay. As well. With, again, developing the alter ego for yourself, it doesn't have to be a process that you get in like 5 minutes from now. You can take a week or a month. It's such a valuable skill that, or it's not a skill. It's kind of a psychological hack or trick. It's so valuable that you should take your time with it. Of course, don't expect to get it right instantly. Just take your time and make sure that it feels right, and then start practicing as that alter ego. Okay. Again, we said earlier, but what you practice, you will become. So, um, whatever you're practicing as is the way that you're going to play on the floor. So turn into that and trigger it every time you train. Please put this replay on YouTube. We will. Um, I'm the Daniel guy you were talking about. I'm pretty sure you're not, but you, okay, let's see. What do you guys want to talk about next? We only have a few more minutes here. So, will Deep Game ever be this cheap again? Honestly, I don't know. We don't actually have, just to touch really quickly on the Deep Game program. If you've seen deepgame.com, then you've probably seen a full layout of the program, and you know this is a high level program. It's not one that is a $40 collection of drills or workouts. We have lots of those and they're awesome. This goes beyond that. And so the price currently is the cheapest it will ever be. As far as I know, I really highly doubt that it will be less expensive than it is right now. And in addition to that, we don't have any immediate plans to open it back up because I actually want to work with the players in the program. There will be a forum where we're talking together, and I'm working personally with these players. And so I really don't have plans to make it less expensive or even to open it back up. And so this really is a good time if you want to get in. I would do it now. We have some really big plans for the members inside, but as far as bringing it back, I just don't know yet. Probably later on this year, but we don't have a date. The law of transcendence. I've actually heard law of transcendence and law number 2 quite often coming up through this chat. So, okay, let's talk number 1 about law number 2, which is the law of reverse effort. So the law of reverse effort, as many of you know, is probably the most like widely known, widely challenging law of all. And the law of reverse effort states that the harder you try to play well, the more difficult the game becomes. And it makes no sense, right? The harder you try to play well, you would think that that would help you play better, but in reality, that's not what happens. If you try to play in a certain way, or you're trying too hard to, let's say, score 20 points or be the man on your team or whatever, you actually end up pushing that away from you. And so, in the masterclass, we go deeper into this, but the first technique that we offered in the masterclass is when you're feeling that it's almost like a jittery anxiety, right? That urge to try really hard and get some certain result during a game. Whenever you feel that, we have a technique called the body breath. So that's the first one that I would do if you feel yourself beginning to try too hard during a game. Just roll. If you're standing, you can like roll back onto your heels a little bit. That will instantly ground your energy, and it will, if you're sitting, you can just like lean back a little bit, shoulders back, good posture, and just breathe in for 3 seconds through your nose and out for 6 seconds through your mouth. That will instantly fix that urge to try too hard. Those jitters and that anxiety will fade a little bit, and it'll give you space to just relax into the game. Combine that with the full focus drill. If you're doing the full focus drill every day and you're noticing when you're trying too hard and then immediately going into body breathing, it's not going to be a problem for you for too long. That's all I'll say. Like those two things together really can quickly make big changes. And even it's also something that just being aware of it can release a lot of that. But So now that you know that the harder you try really hard to play in a certain way, the more difficult the game's going to become. When you notice yourself trying, just ease off, just relax, and just focus back on the process of the game, not getting a result from the game. And you're going to play much, much better. And the result is going to come to you much, much easier. And so that's what I'll say about that for now. There is a much deeper process. That the root of trying too hard on the basketball court is actually fear. It's fear. So if you keep that in mind, we'll probably go deeper into that over the course of these videos and definitely through Deep Game in week 2. But if you notice that when that fear comes up, and the fear of not playing as well as you want to, the fear of being pulled off the floor, the fear of not hitting your target points per game, the fear of another player playing better than you, that fear is what's going to drive you to contract and try to hold on to a certain result and try too hard during the game. And so just release it and let it go as that comes up. And we'll go into that in more detail over the coming weeks. The law of transcendence. So the law of transcendence is the final law, and we go into this in a different way on the masterclass. Yeah, I'm assuming if you're here that you saw that masterclass. If you haven't, please watch it soon, like I've been saying. But the law of transcendence states that basketball is not life. It is a teacher of life. Okay. And this is one of those like societal conditioning type things that has been going around for a really long time. And like the Ball is Life channel on YouTube is an awesome one. It's like, I grew up watching that. It's so cool. But as a philosophical concept, basketball is not life. It is a teacher of life. And so when you start to play the deep game at a higher level and you develop your skills in the deep game, you develop your ability to focus your mind and channel your emotions and relax into the process of simply playing the game or doing whatever you're doing. When you can do these things at a high level on the basketball court, what happens is this phenomena that we've started calling the overflow effect. It can't help but overflow into every area of your life. You can't help but start to be more focused in the classroom and at your work. If you're working, you can't help but start to be more emotionally and mentally stable. You can't help but connect deeper with people who are your friends, or maybe in a relationship, or your parents or your family. You can't help but do all these things. It's the most beautiful part of the deep game, is that everything in your life improves. And our players have definitely found that, and done some really, really special things actually off the court as well as on the court. So that's essentially the law of transcendence in a nutshell. And it really is, I'll just mention here quickly, it's one of the requirements for Deep Game. We actually, uh, we have this series of 3 agreements before you join Deep Game. That number 1, it's the completion agreement. You have to agree to complete the program regardless of how difficult it gets, and push through so you can get the full results from the program. Number 2, you have to agree to continue training your surface game, because again, that's just as important. And number 3 is the transcendence agreement. And that states that you agree to utilize the deep game beyond basketball in your academics, in your relationships, in your work, and for your life at large. And in that way, you start to inspire everybody else around you to do the same. And that's how we make the world a much, much better place. And so that is one of the agreements here. With, if you are interested in joining the full program, that will be required. It's not something that's negotiable. And so I just want to let you know that up front. Okay. So let's see if there's anything else. There's so many questions here, guys. I'm so sorry for any of you who I'm so sorry for any of you who didn't have your questions answered. We're closing in on like 50 minutes here, so we're about to wrap it up. Um, if you have any other questions, please just don't hesitate to reach out and let us know. You can comment on any of the YouTube videos. Probably our most recent one is best, because that's the one that's being monitored most often. Shoot us an email, helpdesk@eliteguardtraining.com. I will talk with Coach Damon. A few of you said that You haven't received the replay. If you haven't received the replay, go to deepgame.com. The replay is at the top. The map of the Deep Game document can be downloaded right below that video. And then if you want to join the full program, it is just below that. So scroll down below, check it all out. It's a high level program. Again, it's not cheap. But regardless of whether you join the full program, just what's in that masterclass is going to help you so much. So I would really encourage you to watch that now while it's still online. Um, Full video on YouTube. Yes, it will be on YouTube. When is Drew Hanlon coming back to Europe? I don't know. You'll have to ask Drew. Will the program be available next year or after several months? Like I said, I don't know. We don't have, we have some big plans for the players inside, and we have some higher level plans for the program. So I just don't have a timeline or a date on that, and I apologize. Pre-game rituals. We spoke a little bit about pre-game earlier on. So once this replay goes on YouTube, be sure to watch it there. How do I learn to free myself on the court? You play the deep game, you learn how to play the deep game. And the first step is watching that masterclass. Okay, do you suggest that people who used EGTX 2.0 should be getting deep game? If you used EGTX 2.0 and that's the type of training and work that you feel is benefiting your game, then deep game will be exponentially more powerful for you. Deep game 2.0 was, in my opinion, it really was, yeah, according to pretty much all of our players, was the most powerful program that we had released up until Deep Game, and Deep Game is significantly better. So I would encourage you, if you have that ability, then if you have the resources, if you have the ability to join Deep Game, it's a pretty big upgrade from EGTX 2.0. Okay, so we're going to wrap it up here, guys. Thank you all so much for coming. What masterclass? Deepgame.com. I just saw a question here. So the masterclass is at deepgame.com. Just as a quick reminder, again, I've been saying this all day, but if you haven't seen it yet, or if you want to watch it again, watch it now, because it's being taken down on Thursday. So deepgame.com. Watch it while you still can. Okay, I think that is going to, I'm so sorry. I see questions coming in, and I apologize. We can't get to all of you. Don't hesitate to shoot us an email, helpdesk@eliteguardtraining.com. And we will be here every step of the way. So thank you so much, guys, for tuning in here. Thank you for all of your questions. If you'd like to do this more often, just let me know. This was the first one we've ever done, so I was still figuring out how it all works. But I'm really glad that we can do this at this time, because Deep Game, obviously, as you can tell, is really special to me. So thank you again. I hope all of you have an amazing day, evening, night, wherever you are. I see some guys from all over the world, actually. So thank you so much. And we will talk to you again in the next video.